Hello! Hello, everybody. And welcome to Adventures in History. And it's been an interesting one already. Well, I guess I can share this because, who cares? Uh, I almost did not have the hardware needed to run the stream tonight because earlier this week I went back to work and the keyboard and mouse that I was using for this new computer that I built just so happens to be the same keyboard and mouse that I normally use in my office at work. And I walked back here all ready to go for stream, like, hey, let's do some streaming, woo, history. And then I realized I have no keyboard and I have no mouse. So I, in a rather sudden panic, dug around in all of the spare boxes and such and was not able to find what I needed. So I went and robbed our other computer. So that unfortunately means that at the moment, my wife doesn't have a keyboard or a mouse. So sorry, babe. Yeah, it's something I was supposed to handle over the weekend. I was supposed to go to a store and get another mouse and keyboard set up. So we could talk about her behind her back. Well, I mean, technically, she could boot up her laptop and use that. I don't know what she's planning on doing. She's got work stuff to do anyway, so I don't know how involved she'll be tonight anyway. But that's okay. Regardless, I am here. I have managed to... from the keyboard alone. Foggage, I can. However, it's a lot harder to do stuff like this using just a keyboard. A lot harder to do stuff like this. I mean, I know like the alts and the key shortcuts and all that fun stuff, but yeah, it's nice to have a mouse. So, hey, Sci-Fi, good to see you. Hey, Foggage. Hey, Finesse, how's it going? I'm doing okay. Today's actually been a pretty good day. Students were back in the class today, and I had more students in my classroom today than I have had since the beginning of March in 2020. So, for over a year, I have not had students in a classroom. And it was a little weird because we all had to do social distancing and we're all wearing masks, and that I completely appreciate. It was just a little weird for everybody because unfortunately we can't bring the entire class in. I sort of have to assign days. So some students have to attend virtually via WebEx, and some students have to come in to class, and then we flip-flop. So it's a little weird, but I had some of the best interactions I've had with students today in the past year and a half. And it really did, it brought me a lot of joy. So today has been a pretty stinking good day. How is everybody? How are you all? I hope you all are also having excellent days and enjoying life, as it were. We only get one, unless you believe in reincarnation. Then depending on which particular version of that, we might have several, or you might have 30,000. So, missing Ratty Boy, but decent. Yeah, Sci-Fi, I hope everything heals, if you get what I'm saying there. It's always... Well, we don't have to go into all of that stuff, but I feel you, and I hope everything goes as well as it could. Hey, Joey, good to see you. Also got to meet the Thai ambassador, the deputy, and the military attachés yesterday, so that was pretty cool. That sounds pretty neat. Did you go to the embassy in DC, or were they sort of visiting your station? I like Embassy Row. Embassy Row in DC is one of my favorite areas. Down around that end of, I think is it K Street? The Thai air attache gave me his call. Oh, that's awesome. You went to the Thai embassy? That's really cool. Down around that end of DC, right around DuPont Circle, there's a really good Greek restaurant. And I can't remember the name of it. I'm so bad when it comes to remembering names of places. Especially when I'm wandering around, I'm much more visual. But there's a really good restaurant just off of the north. That would be what is the northeast corner of DuPont Circle. Pretty cool place. Great opportunity for those of us getting to go to Thailand. Yeah. Get your foot in the door. Did you speak Thai to him? Ooh, that's the wrong... Why was I able to move that in the first place? That should be locked. Lock? Yeah. Lock you. I'll just lock everything. Oh, cool. Well, I hope that went well. Yeah, so welcome everybody. And I guess I should give the spill. So this is Adventures in History. We talk about stuff history related. But as you can tell, we also sort of just pal around and hang out and goof off. They speak English way better than you speak Thai. That's the way that it tends to be. A lot of people take English as a second language in school, and it's actually taught much more than our second languages are. So that's a pretty frequent situation. But yeah, so we hang out, we goof off, we talk about stuff in history. We try to have fun with it. We make bad jokes and horrible puns and all of the stuff that makes people just groan sort of internally or externally. I don't know. You don't have microphones, so you might actually be groaning externally at me. But it's a good time. And I really think that history shouldn't be boring. I think that it is a really fascinating concept, a really interesting field to study, because at the end of the day, it's really just people making decisions, right? Everything that has ever happened in history is just decisions that people have made. Now, they might be really big decisions and they might be not so big decisions, but either way you go, that's what it is. So tonight we are going to check in on America, but not the United States of America. We will be checking in on, I guess I should actually change this to say Americas.
I'm Spartacus!
But I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
Batbird. 3 months. Congratulations for the 3-month streak. You get a cool new badge. And you're also Spartacus. So, there you go. I think it'd be cool to be a park ranger at a park with history and archaeology and share that same level of people. I really think that would be a great thing too. And one day when I am retired, I do not doubt that I will end up being some sort of docent at a museum that just hangs out and talks with people. Just one of those guys that's like, hey, check that out, and here's all the cool stuff about that. I think that would be something right up my alley. When you retire from the military, you plan to try the park ranger gig. I think that would suit you well. You like being outside and you like talking with people. That'd be a good job. Yeah. So, yeah, we're talking about the Americas. And when I say Americas here, I do mean the Americas. And this is sort of in tune with how we've been covering history. We take history in chunks, and I know that I say this every time, and I'm sure that people that show up every time are kind of tired of me saying it, but we might have new people that don't know.
I'm Spartacus!
But
I'm Spartacus!
I am Brian, and so is my wife.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
Joey, thank you for that sub. And welcome back for 5 months. That's awesome. Thank you both. Hey, Cave, good to see you. Hello, is it cave you're looking for? So yeah, we do history in sort of chunks, and we sort of start over here. Basically, the sun rises right about here, and we start a new day over this side. So we kind of have been moving our way in about 100-year-long phases, moving from this part over to the New World. So this phase we've talked about Japan and Korea and China and some empires up here and the Kushans and India and Persia, and last week we talked a lot about Rome. So now we need to check in on the Americas. Now, well, we did not check in on the Americas last phase, and some people might have asked why we did that. Well, part of that is because the situation in the Americas was not changing very rapidly. It was sort of kind of just steady on as she goes. And it's not until around this time that we see some new, rather interesting, and what I consider some really, really cool developments. You just killed a cannon boss. Which cannon did I kill? And I'm probably missing a reference, and I do have to apologize if I am. I don't get that one, though. All right. So, yeah, the Americas. And, and Steve's channel. My bounty hunter just killed a baddie in Steve's Sketches channel, who is at the moment playing Darkest Dungeon. I was there until just a moment ago. So, when we look at the Americas, we've talked about a couple of different groups of people already. And of those, the Maya at the time are the largest group. And we talked about them a couple of phases ago, and we have talked about them in a specific viewer request episode way back at the beginning of viewer requests. But the Maya are right around in here, and they are one of the largest people groups. So we're going to talk about them just a little bit, but we're going to be focusing on other people groups in the Americas that emerge around the 2nd century of our modern time. And we're going to start with a big city that sits right about here. And that city is Teotihuacan. Teotihuacan. And I know that's a really long series of letters that don't necessarily go together, but there's going to be several of those tonight. Teotihuacan was an absolutely powerhouse city, and it's going to first be inhabited around 600 BC. We mentioned them last time when we were talking about the Maya, and we talked a little bit about their foundation, but we were mostly talking about the Maya last time. But it's a pretty big city, and by the time that we're looking at it, which is around the 200s, from 100 to 200 of the modern era, it has grown substantially. And one of the more impressive things about the city itself is actually its streets. They're very streets ahead. I don't know if anybody gets that, but anyway. So here we go. This is actually the layout of their city. And I know it looks kind of like gibberish, but if we look at this, we actually have grid patterns, and we have city blocks, and we're getting organized districts of things. We have a temple district that stretches up. Oop, where did that go? There we are. We're back. And there it went again. So let me zoom out and see what the devil's going on with the photos here. Anyway, we have temple districts, and we have flashes on the computer that make me think that it might be about to go crashy crash. So maybe I don't zoom in. Anyway, we also have an organized palace structure here. Yep, it's going crazy, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why. Maybe it just doesn't like rendering this particular image. Maybe it just thinks that I'm a horrible, horrible person and I shouldn't be able to show images on stream. Yeah. Who knows? I thought I had fixed all of this stuff. Oh, hey Steve, what's up? What's up? So, Teotihuacan, big city, grid pattern, really organized, very interesting layout. I am entertained. That is exactly why I am here, but it's to entertain you all. Hey, Steve. Good to see ya. I heard that I killed a boss. By the way, I love the little, like, hee, I'm going to raid you emote. If you're not already following Steve's sketches, you absolutely should be. I slaughtered a lot of bandits. Cool. All right, Steve, good to see you. Thanks for the raid, man. If you're not already following Steve, you should totally go follow Steve. Let me also do that old shout out for the cave. If you're not following Cave Geek Art, you should totally be following Cave Geek Art. Go give both of these guys a follow. They're both excellent streamers, very talented artists, and you will not have a bad time in their chats. Consider them both very good friends, and they have done a lot to help me out to get where I am. So there you go. That's the pitch. All right. So what else about Teotihuacan? Well, here's the thing about the city itself. We're not 100% sure what the original name of it was. The people that lived there did not have a written language. And that seems a bit odd for the level of civilization that they had achieved. But it's not necessarily unheard of. There were big cities all over the world that had fairly organized structure, big temples, things like that, and yet no written language. So where does the name Teotihuacan come from? And that's a fair question. So the word itself comes from a much later Aztec word. And by the time that the Aztecs show up in the several hundred years from at this point, it's the 700, 800, 900 range, the city of Teotihuacan had been almost completely abandoned, and it was mostly overgrown. And the Aztecs looked at this city and they were like, oh man, what happened here? There was some huge thing that happened here. Look at these gigantic buildings and all this stuff going on. And so the Aztecs, in their mythology, believed that Teotihuacan was actually where most of their gods were born. So Teotihuacan in the Aztec language actually means the birthplace of the gods, which is pretty neat. We also see a couple of references in the Mayan written language. The Maya did come up with a written language. They call the place Puh, which is just spelled P-U-H. And that just means the place of reeds. And the reason it's called the place of reeds is because of the water. Well, one of the reasons Teotihuacan was chosen as a site for habitation is that it is very fertile. And there are lots of natural springs in the area. It's also in a valley. So when the rain falls, all the water runs down. So there are lots of marshy places and reeds and riversides. So Puh, or the place of the reeds, makes sense in that context. But, it's just a cool city. But what did the people that lived there call it? We don't know. So they may have called it, Jimmy the City. Who knows? They could have called it whatever they wanted to. But this actually gets us to a question of who these people actually were. So if we have this big of a city and we have these big structures, and by the way, I'm about to hopefully show you pictures of some of these big structures to sort of make this a little bit more impressive. But we don't know a lot necessarily about the ethnic makeup of the people that lived there. And for a long time, there were some theories that these were the front runners of the Maya people, or that maybe they were also part of a group called the Zapotec, who are growing during this period of time. But a theory came out back in the late 70s or so, might have been a little bit earlier than that, but it started getting traction, especially after the Cold War sort of heated up, that these people were actually rather multi-ethnic. So the city of Teotihuacan, which by the way became an empire, and has this big chunk of land, and I realize now that I should have pulled up a map that has the borders of Teotihuacan. We'll talk about that when we get to warfare, and I'll sort of draw a line on the map here on Google Earth for you. Thank God Jesus was an only child, because who would want to be Jerry, the brother of Christ? Well, Batbird, it depends on which particular tradition you follow, or if you follow one in the Christian faith. There are some people in the Christian faith that believe that Jesus had lots of half-brothers, or that perhaps they were not actually half-brothers, that they were all older than Jesus, and that they came from a previous wife to Joseph, so that Mary was not then actually their mother. There's a lot of different interpretations of a lot of that stuff. There are some Christian faiths that believe that Mary was literally a virgin until the day that she died. So, there you go. Oh, hey. Did you just top it off, KP? Look at that. Look at that. A History of Middle-earth fund raised. Community goal met. Congratulations, everybody. We are now 100% funded for our next History of Middle-earth stream. That's going to be great. I don't know when I'm going to do that. I will start writing up the outline for it, and we will do that pretty soon. Maybe I don't think I can turn that around fast enough for this weekend. I do have to work all day tomorrow, and we've got some stuff around the house that I need to do this weekend anyway. So maybe we can shoot for the following weekend, which would be, what is that? The 28th or the 29th of August. So we'll tentatively kind of pencil that in. Thank you, everybody that donated to the community goal. I think everybody understands that I really like Lord of the Rings, and that I love running my mouth about Lord of the Rings. So yeah, thanks to everybody that donated to help us get there. If you're listening and you like Lord of the Rings, and you enjoy what you're listening to and think you might want to listen to more of it, we're also running a follower goal for yet another History of Middle-earth stream, and we're actually getting really close to that one. We are only 21 viewer follows away from having yet another History of Middle-earth stream. So there we go. Not that I'm that important, but you're out of town next weekend. Alas. To Warfare? Moose, I don't get the reference there. LOL, when you said that the town of Jimmy, you just thought of Robin Williams going on about what if Jesus was called Jim Bob instead. We could have had Jim Bob, the son of God. Yeah, I that's a good bit. I really like Robin Williams. He's one of my favorite comedians, and I feel almost like I'm cursed. I feel like if I like a comedian, that almost might be a bad sign. I really like Robin Williams, who unfortunately committed suicide. I really like Mitch Hedberg. And I still quote Mitch Hedberg stuff all the time. And he, of course, overdosed. So maybe I shouldn't find certain people really funny. Maybe that's... you said Worf. I got you, Moose. I got you. Yes, we will talk about Worf hair and how Klingon battle hair arrangements can be used to intimidate your enemies. I saw a wino eating grapes once. I said, man, you got to wait. If you don't know who Mitch Hedberg is, go to YouTube after the stream, type in Mitch Hedberg, and prepare to laugh. That guy is just absolutely hilarious, and I am very sad that he is no longer with us. It was too soon for him to go. Anyway, you're probably fond of Jim Gaffigan. So I find Jim Gaffigan funny a little bit, but I don't like that high-pitched voice that he does. And every time I know that he's about to do that high-pitched voice, I sort of like pre-groan, like, oh, he's going to do that thing where he goes, hey, Beckett. I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to hear that. I don't know if I've ever been able to make it all the way through a Jim Gaffigan stream. Or, not stream, but show. He is very funny, and he is a very highly awarded comic. He has been asked to perform for the Pope multiple times. Do you know how hard it is to get a one-on-one audience with the Pope? This guy's like cracking up the Pope. But I guess, you know, if you're the Pope, you want to laugh just as much as anybody, maybe more. So he's one of the few comics that manages to use clean jokes and stay funny. Yeah, I totally respect that art. It's just not necessarily my world sometimes. I have to be in a very particular mood. And usually when I'm like, I should just give him another shot, it ends up not being that particular mood. Yeah. So we were talking about people in Teotihuacan and who they were. And we don't really know very much about who they were. This theory that they're actually a mix of people from a lot of other places caught on a little bit, but it hasn't really made a lot of headway until modern science kicks in. And when I say modern science, what I mean is DNA testing. So one of the kind of weird things about Teotihuacan is that there has not been a big push to basically DNA sequence every skeleton there. And here's the thing, there are a lot of skeletons in Teotihuacan. A lot of skeletons. Here's the thing though. Because it was such a big hub for trade, just because someone died there doesn't mean that they lived there. Fair. So if we find a whole bunch of skeletons that share genetic markers with Maya people, does that mean that there was a stable population of Mayans inside of Teotihuacan? Or just that they made frequent enough trade contact that some of them just happened to die when they were in Teotihuacan? There's a fair question. Also, once again, they are very big on war. And they have an empire. And this empire stretched a lot of this sort of skinny region right here of Mexico and up. It's a pretty big chunk of territory right here that they controlled. So they also did a lot of sacrifice, and specifically human sacrifice. So if you do a whole bunch of DNA testing at Teotihuacan and you find out that there are all of these different people from all of these different groups that are buried at Teotihuacan, does that mean that they lived there, or could they have been captives that were killed there? So there's a little bit of a question mark, but the DNA evidence that has been collected so far does seem to lend a little bit of credence to this idea that it was a fairly cosmopolitan city that then turned into an empire, and that lots of different people lived there. What were you doing, Mary? How did it happen? Oh, it's immaculate, Joe. It better be, Mary. It better be immaculate. Let's leave your skeletons alone. Well, you know, you want to keep that one under wraps, if you will. If you've ever seen your own skeleton, something has gone horribly awry. Has anybody ever seen part of their own skeleton? I hope not. All right, so if we look at Teotihuacan from about this period of time that we're looking at, so from about 100 to about 200, there is a lot of stuff going on. You have only in X-rays. Hey, a drop bear, good to see you and welcome. KP, did your leg break that bad? I didn't think that your leg broke that bad. Or did they show you parts of you that you... Now I'm wondering what made you see your own bones. Isn't teeth technically part of the skeleton? Oh, thanks, Joey. Yeah, I guess so. So there we go. If you've seen your teeth, you didn't break a leg. No, you just messed up your knee. I was thinking of the four-wheeler incident. Unless they got a really bad fracture. Yeah. Joey's like, teeth. Fine. Okie doke. Oh! Yeah, well, there we go. See, like, is a tooth a bone, or is it not a bone? Is this part of the skeletal system? We could spend all night arguing stuff like this. I'm sure that someone knows the actual answer. I don't. I'll play semantics and say yes and no. Anyway, so I've mentioned that Teotihuacan is big and it's growing and it's building a lot of stuff. Let me try to show you some of the stuff that they're building here, and we'll see if this works. All right, so this, fingers crossed. Hey, there we go. This is called the Pyramid of the Sun. This is an absolutely enormous structure that is inside. Ooh, whoa, no, that's the wrong. Whoop, go away. There we go. That is inside of the city. It sits about halfway down the main avenue. The main avenue, by the way, is called the Avenue of the Dead. That's a great city to live on. The only bone you know you have broken was your jaw. Oh, wow, that sounds horrible. Is this before or after the aliens? Aliens. This is decidedly before the aliens because the aliens aren't ever actually here. But I will point out that these little dots up here at the top of this thing are humans. So you can use your proportional imagination to put this into perspective. This building is absolutely enormous here. You've not actually broken any bones, most of your scars are surgical. Yeah. You love the answer. All right. I'm glad I passed the answer. Like, you have passed the test. I don't believe that aliens built this stuff. I am perfectly comfortable with the fact that humans are doggedly determined, and that, especially in the instance of Teotihuacan here, we have organized labor because our populations were growing and the kings of the city were becoming very, very powerful. So this is, again, just an absolutely enormous building. It is the third largest pyramid in the world. It's only beaten by the Great Pyramid at Giza and the second of the Great Pyramids at Giza. If you throw enough bodies at it, it will get built. Yes. Yes, that is accurate. And there are plenty of bodies that I'm sure have been thrown either under, in, or around this guy. For science! Or rather, in this case, for history! Indeed. All right, we're blinking again, so hopefully that doesn't mean anything. This is the Pyramid of the Moon. This is actually at the northern part of the Avenue of the Dead inside of Teotihuacan. It is slightly smaller, but it is a larger complex. You can see here that it has these sort of flanking platforms here. These would have almost certainly been used for sacrifices. By the way, we know that the Temple of the Moon and the Pyramid of the Pyramid of the Moon and the Pyramid of the Sun were both used for sacrifices. We're not certain which of the deities were particularly associated with the Pyramid of the Sun. By the time archaeologists got to the Pyramid of the Sun, I missed that because I don't have Streamlabs on the top. So whatever just happened and whoever just did that, thank you for whatever you just did. I think that was a follow. Let me go see who followed me.
Biggest factors in too. So
I don't
it's a
want to
big
watch
thumbs
somebody
up for-
play this game. Ah, there we go. Drop Bear just followed. Okay, thank you. Well, that saves me the trouble of having to go and look it all up. I'll probably just need to close that window anyway. Maybe that'll save me some RAM cycles. Thank you, Drop Bear Antics, and welcome to the adventure. I'm sorry that you did not get to see the great little animation here. Maybe I should just trigger it for you so that you get to see it, and we can all celebrate. Dun 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 dun. Here we go. There we go. There we go. Thanks, Drop Bear. And that makes 580. So we are... Oh, 581. Who followed? Who else followed? It is pretty epic. Hey, Brittany. Eat your heart out, Pixar. I can't say that much. All right, so again, the Pyramid of the Sun, we do know that it was used for sacrifice. However, by the time archaeologists were able to get their eyeballs on this thing, it had already been destroyed. And it looks like part of the temple sort of platform up here at the very, very top had been destroyed in antiquity. But also, those super pesky Spanish, when they showed up in the 14 and 1500s, they decided, we don't want no pagan altars, we're just going to break a whole bunch of stuff. So we are not 100% certain to whom the Temple of the Sun was dedicated. Now, when we get to the Temple of the Moon, we have a much better idea. We do think that the Temple of the Moon was dedicated to the water goddess. The Temple of the Moon is slightly older, and which means that it was there first. And because of the plentiful springs and water sources in the valley, the water goddess does seem to have been a very high-ranking deity in the pantheon of the people of Teotihuacan. And it does seem pretty evident, based on some archaeological findings, that the Temple of the Moon, or the Pyramid of the Moon, was dedicated to the water goddess. Dang disease-carrying conquistadors. Who do they think they were? King Josiah? Wild guess, the sun. Yes, so dedicated to the sun, sure, but which particular god, right? So the sun is a god thing, sure, but you can also do a lot of stuff on it. So the Temple of the Moon is the Temple of the Moon. And by the way, these are names that people much later gave to these structures. Again, the people inside of Teotihuacan did not have a written language. We don't know if they called this the Pyramid of the Moon or the Pyramid of the Sun. These are language that we have put on them. The sun is larger, and they're like the big sun, and the moon is smaller like the moon. So, yeah, there's a little bit of leeway there. To a certain extent, this is people using modern terminology to try to explain the people of the past. And because the solar deities were such a big deal inside of especially Mesoamerican peoples, pantheons, the names stuck before archaeology really showed up. So, there we go. Sounds like Christians. Well, the Spanish were pretty happy about trying to expand Christianity. So, again, Teotihuacan is a really big city. It becomes an empire, and they are based on conquest. If you look at a lot of the art that decorates the buildings of Teotihuacan, or if you look at a lot of the murals that are on the sides of the temples and things like that, they use pictographs. So the Mayan written language is a pictographic language, but that is a little bit later, especially the Mayan culture hits what we know as like classical Mayan at about 250. So it's a little bit after us. Now, the Olmec that sort of turned into the Maya had a more primitive version of written language, but the people that lived inside of Teotihuacan themselves did not. So while some of the imagery might have been visually symbolic, we can't say necessarily that the people inside of Teotihuacan were doing this linguistically symbolically. Yes, Olmec. We talked about the Olmec last time we were hanging around. I see. Yeah, no problem. Questions are always welcome, even if they seem not to necessarily be involved. I enjoy tangents. We can chase rabbits. We can jump topics. It's all super laid back here. Like, nobody's taking roll. Nobody's giving out grades. Nobody gets gold stars. Well, I mean, I guess I've given out gold stars in the past. But there we go. Just need to use a time machine to find out. Does anybody have one ready to go? Well, I just need to find 1.21 gigawatts to charge up the old flux capacitor, and then we just need to hit 88 miles an hour, and we'll be back, right? The DeLorean's in the shop getting his flux capacitor fixed, so there we go, right? You know, not everybody can get that old flux capacitor working at the one time. So, again, big wars, lots of conquest, and when we look at the art that people are using to decorate Teotihuacan, it is very frequently art about war. Either killing people in warfare, or just warriors walking around, or sacrifices that were gathered through war being sacrificed to the gods. Lots of war in the art of Teotihuacan. And we also know that they became a very rich empire because of the loot. So in some of the burials of people that we suspect to be either nobles or perhaps even kings of Teotihuacan, there's all kinds of loot from all over this sort of Mesoamerican region. Gold, silver, really fine stonework, all sorts of really intricately detailed pottery, really fancy, really beautiful things. Or a star for your Eye of Harmony. Aw, you blame Comstar. There's only one person that would give me a raspberry. Lone Star. A time machine out of a DeLorean. Seriously? Yeah, sure, why not? I really wish Mr. Fusion was a thing. Man, if I could turn garbage into electricity, that would be amazing. It would just be amazing. I don't like throwing stuff away as it is. And to be able to actually turn that into something useful would be great. I think the world would have a lot less warfare if we solved this energy issue. If only there was some big free thing that sent radiant energy towards us every day. If only there was some way to harness let's call them rays of this energy and light source. Methanol. Beats the 60s police box. It does. But the police box has a lot more room for storage. Yeah, it's bigger on the inside. Nuclear. I'd actually don't have a big problem with nuclear energy. And I think that if people would look at options that were available that did not involve uranium or plutonium, that there are other, especially thorium reactors. I don't know if anybody's familiar with thorium or salt-based nuclear reactors. But there we go. Thorium reactors for the win. Yeah, it's a lot less radioactive. The half-life on the radioactivity can be measured in like 200 or 300 years instead of basically forever. But the reason that most of the nuclear reactors that we have now are built around uranium and plutonium is because when the United States was basically making nuclear power, they demanded that all of the research be able to be used for nuclear weapons. But we don't need nuclear weapons anymore. I think we've done quite a bit enough with the nuclear weapons and the threatening of the nuclear weapons and the use of the nuclear weapons. So, I'm missing stuff. I'm a firm believer in modern generation nuclear reactors. Yes, absolutely. Hear me out. What if we build a huge temple to that radiant thing in the sky and then sacrifice the stupid people to it, and in gratitude it lets us harness its energy? Okay. Speaking of, you'll take conventional uranium reactors for now, better than fossil fuels. Certainly so. But we're digressing. It's perfectly okay to digress. Seriously, Drop Bear. It's okay. It's okay to digress. We digress all the time. This is a free conversational sort of thing. It's not. I hate using the word lecture. I don't like it when people use the word lecture to describe my stream. This is not a lecture. This is a conversation, and we are very much all just talking. And if something comes up, we can explore that. It doesn't have to be, just super one thing. We'll get back to Mesoamerica soon enough. Just don't build your planet by a fault line. Yeah, we don't want any 3 Mile Island kind of stuff going on. We don't want any Chernobyl-y kind of stuff going on. We're all just Tolkiening. Are you trying to derail me, Cave? Or are you just like putting down the breadcrumbs? By the way, for those of you that weren't here earlier, we hit our goal. So we're going to have a History of Middle Earth stream pretty soon. So cool stuff there. Edumacated. Woohoo! All right, so we can get back to edumacation. I think we can be done with Teotihuacan. I do want to note that at this point, we're looking at about the 200 AD or CE mark, the only real empire that exists in all of the Americas is Teotihuacan. And again, it's going to control a lot of this area right here. Now, the Maya were still there, but the Maya were more of a confederation of city-states. And we do need to talk about the Maya just a little bit, mostly because they are going to be working on one of their biggest and most impressive cities during this time period. Oh yeah, I am a huge Tolkien fan. Humongous. Anyway, so the Maya... Ooh, well, let me change this actually before we move. So, the big city that the Maya people are working on at this point and are getting up to super city status is this city called Tikal. And you have probably seen Tikal before, but this is a view down the sort of the main drag. We have the big temple of the Jaguar right here. We have other structures that are particularly big. There are a couple of people walking around right here. I don't know if you can see them, but these little dots right here are people. These are all really, really big, significantly large buildings. And Tikal is going to go on to be one of the single largest cities in all of the Americas. It's not quite to that level yet, but Tikal during this period of time is going to be one of the preeminent cities. There are several other cities of the Mayan people that are still pretty big. There's a big city called El Mirador. There's another one called Kamanalhuyu. These are cities that we talked about last time we covered the Mayans. Their populations are still very large as well. Are we just talking? And then some. Yes, and then some. Looking forward to the Amazon series next year then. Hard no. I'm worried a lot about that Amazon series next year, and I'll tell you why in as few words as possible. Number one, I don't trust Amazon. Number two, they chose the part of Tolkien's universe that is the least described so that they could do whatever they wanted to, and I fear that they are going to ruin it. I'm going to go in with the lowest possible expectations and just hope that I am slightly surprised. I don't trust anybody messing around in Tolkien's world since they decided to make 3 Hobbit movies. Yeah. Lord of the Rings is not Game of Thrones, no matter how bad Amazon wants it to be. They're just ants to us. What is this? A city for ants? Yeah, Lord of the Rings is not Game of Thrones. You're just hoping for hobbits and mechs. Little people, big mech. Or would the mechs be smaller in proportion? Would the Hobbit mech only be about the size of a cave troll or so? I don't know. That's an interesting concept. We'd have to explore that. Would they be like sit down piloting it? like in a cockpit, or would it be more of like the exoskeleton from Alien, where it's just sort of like an extension of your arms and legs? I would bet though that the elves would make better ones. She'll take the animated Hobbit movie. Yeah, I like that animated Hobbit movie quite a bit. And everything is flashing here, and I don't know exactly why it's flashing here, but I fear that my computer might be about to blue screen. Let me close some stuff. See if I can maybe keep this going a little bit. Dwarves would make the best mechs, probably, but they would also probably keep them for themselves and not share them with anybody. Wait, what? We're not just continuing George R.R. Martin to... Yeah, it's not one or the other there. The stream did glitch a bit just now. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but it's not pleased. It's not pleased with me. So let's just soldier forth, and if we encounter big issues, we will recover as able. All right, so let's move down here to South America, and let's discuss the topic or the name of the stream tonight. Okay, and that didn't actually change. I changed that, but it didn't actually change it. And why is it still showing that? Okay, that's really weird. Ah, there we are. Don't know what happened there. Twitch being twitchy. I think it's not Twitch. I think it's my computer. I think that it has something to do with something here that I've got going on that it's not happy with. Begone BSOD, indeed. Sally forth. Don't speech to me about the old mechs. Sally Fields. Martin traded his soul to the devil for the success of Game of Thrones, but he isn't collected till the series is finished. Well, does it mean success of the books or success of the show? Streamlabs being a butt. I'm using OBS, and I really do think, though, it has something to do with the way that my computer is processing graphics. I think it has something to do with the fact that I've got lots of graphics open at one time, and I think it's just not very pleased with me. Well, no, see, here's what happened. I changed it. It just did not show that I changed it. Blue smoke distribution issue. Let's hope that we don't release the blue smoke. If we release the blue smoke, something is way wrong. Comstar Mechs, we forgot about some Battletech. Yeah, I'm surrounded by Gundam models and Transformers, so yeah, I'm a giant robot fan too. But it's the books that count. Okay. I'm with you now. I'm with you. All right, so let's keep going.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained? Is that not why you were here? Aristotle. Many thanks. Good to see him. If you are not already following Aristotle, you should totally go do that, because he's a really cool dude, and he's super smart, and he has a room full of really smart, super cool people that all hang out and have really good discourse, very similar to what we have here. He is a philosophy teacher at college and has just a lot of wisdom and is willing to share that with people, which I find super commendable. And of course, by doing that bit of blowing smoke up his rear end, it also makes me look better. So what does that tell you about my ego? Hey, Ashiki, good to see you. Dolicophallus, good to see you. Yarkasm, good to see you. How is everybody? Eris, how was the stream? How's everything? You're just doing meetings this week, right? I actually had students in the classroom today. You don't know anything about the Battletech universe, even though you get addicted to it since 80s. There we go. Flattery will get you nowhere, but keep trying. He's a good guy, and he chose to raid me, so... Shane puts the super in super ego. Wow! You can tell who my best friend is, right? But is it blue smoke? Hopefully it's not smoke at all. Read the novels. Michael Stackpole ones from the... Oh yeah, Stackpole, man. Stackpole's such a great writer. I really appreciate Stackpole's writing. The Battletech stuff that he did was great. I do, though, have to throw out some love for the Star Wars novels that Stackpole wrote. Excellente. Finished a couple of orientations this semester. Affiliated faculty in the medical bioethics program, so you had to stuff for both medical and bioeth and philosophy. Ugh! That seems like a pain. That's a lot of preps. I read all four but the fourth Succession novels. Loved me some Stackpole, X-Wing. Yeah, that stuff is near and dear to my little nerd heart. I read all of those books. Actually, KP was the one that got me into reading the Star Wars novels. I borrowed, I think, 20 or so of them from him in order, and then I decided I wanted to read all of them again, but then I started buying them myself, and then I ended up with an entire bookshelf full of Star Wars novels. The X-Wing series is your favorite in the whole EU? That sounds pretty good. I will have to say that the New Jedi Order... Well, I shouldn't say New Jedi Order because that was the whole thing with the Yuzang Vong. The Thrawn trilogy with Zahn has a really special place in the hierarchy as well. Good stuff. Have you ever thought about teaching a class on the philosophy of vaccines? Ooh. Blood of Skrinsky trilogy, but it's great for the background. Maybe after COVID. I think I just got upset right now. Yeah. And Shiggy's like, you think COVID's going to end? Timothy Zahn's Star Wars stuff was a yawn fest. Oh, no! Oh, dude, I love that. And we can have different opinions. That's okay. I think Thrawn is a great character. Money right now is on the endemic in the near... without Zahn, there is no EU. There were books before him, though. There were the Han Solo trilogy and the Lando Calrissian trilogy that were out before him. But he definitely made it work. I also think Splinter of the Mind's Eye was out before he wrote that. Before he wrote the Thrawn trilogy. I can't remember the publication dates of everything, though. All right, so welcome everybody from Eris' Stream. If you don't know me, my name is Shane. I am a college history teacher. I'm also teaching sociology now. So that's a fun twist to things. But we hang out, we talk about stuff, history related. We do have topics for each class, if you will, or meeting, if you will. Right now, we are talking about Native American peoples that are in the 2nd century of the modern term. And we just got through talking about Teotihuacan, and we just got through mentioning the Maya and their foundation of their new big city called Tikal. And now we're going to go down here to the modern day country of Peru, and we're going to talk about the Moche, which brings us to the pun of the title tonight, just another Manic Moche. If you're not singing the Bangles now, I hope. It was the Moche, right? Dun 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 dun. Vipers, thank you so much for that follow, and welcome to the adventure. You read the Han Solo trilogy back in mid school, yeah. America, but we just got in Rome. So Shiggy, what we're doing is we're covering the entire world century by century. So we're taking little snapshots of stuff. So while all of that stuff we were talking about last week is going on in Rome with Trajan expanding and then Hadrian understanding the limes and the 5 good emperors and the Unified emperors, while all of that stuff is going on in Rome, this is what's going on in the Americas. So we are taking a snapshot of one century and then we're covering the whole world. And then we'll move to the next century and then we'll cover the whole world again. And we'll just repeat that until we catch up. I suspect that we'll catch up sometime in about 2025 or 2026. And I'm not being a joke. I actually sort of tried to plan all of this stuff out. It'll take a long time for us to catch up. Not Moche, Moche. But Moche is pretty good. I especially like the green tea Moche stuff. It says, a long, long time ago in a galaxy far away. It's history, therefore tax deductible. Vipers, you have found the magic loophole. Thank you very, very much. There were books before Thrawn, but Zahn officially began the EU. Covered all the campaigns. You don't have that book, but you did see it. Japanese pastry thing. I do love some mochi. Unbeknownst to the Romans, right? All right, so who are the Moche? Well, the Moche are a people group, and they live here along the coastline of Peru. And I've got a map. Everybody loves it. Map. Bum, ba, da, bum. So if we look at the dark orange here, this territory is actually where the Moche people lived. If you look at the lighter orange, this is an area that the Moche would have had cultural impact on. And when I say cultural impact, what I mean here is that because these people lived close enough to these big cities of the Moche, that they gained certain social and civil benefits. They were able to go to the big cities. Even if they weren't necessarily of the Moche people themselves, they were able to gain access to trade goods that came from the Moche people. They were able to participate in these really big religious events and yearly ceremonies around things like solstices and such. So the Moche have this sort of cultural gravitas that expands outside of their actual cities themselves. And this is true for most ancient cultures, by the way. Meanwhile, indigenous Australians are happy telling Dreamtime stories and being happy, left alone for a few hundred years still. Yeah, the indigenous Australian people at this point were just hanging out. Dreamtime is actually super fascinating. I've done quite a bit of research about Australian Aboriginal peoples, especially their religious concepts. I have a real big fascination with the way that people view the world and their religious ideas of cosmology and things like that. And the concept of Dreamtime is fascinating to me. For those of you that are unfamiliar, the Aboriginal people of Australia have a concept inside of their... It's religious, but it's also not religious. It's this concept called Dreamtime, where effectively time as we understand it doesn't necessarily exist the way that we perceive it. That everything that is and was sort of exists in the same dreamscape, if you will, and with certain techniques and certain medicinal things you can actually experience Dreamtime and interact with Dreamtime, where you can see things like your past and your future and your ancestors and your descendants and the gods themselves, and you can really get in tune with the way that things are. It's a really, really fascinating idea, and I am doing a horrible job of explaining it. It is very complex, but if you're interested in that, I would definitely tell you to go check out Dreamtime. Really, really cool stuff. They gave booze. That's what the social impact usually means. All right, Eris, good to see you. Thanks for dropping by. If Columbus thought he was in Asia, how did he predict the eclipse? The thing about eclipses is that they have trajectories, and that they start at certain places and they end in certain places. So you can see them at different areas, and he just got lucky, right? If Columbus, like in higher dimensions, so it's not even necessarily dimensions for Dreamtime. It's much more that the perception of humans is limited to sort of our flesh, and that there are more things that are around us and have a very real impact on the world around us that are not immediately perceived by our sort of dulled senses while we're in the body, but it's not something that's like on the other side. It's something that's very much right here. We just can't see it all of the time, if that makes any sense. I first found out about Dreamtime from TMNT Down Under. Yeah, I love Mutant Ninja Turtles, yeah. Nice work there. Are you talking about my description of Dreamtime? If so, thanks. I really do find people's religions and viewpoints of the world absolutely fascinating. And I know I don't have all of that stuff down, but that is sort of my rudimentary way of trying to explain what I think that I know. I didn't know Joe Rogan was an Aboriginal. Oh, man. Joe Rogan used to be such a pillar of the underground sort of conspiracy theory-esque world. And then he sold out. I've got some acquaintances that are pretty deep in what most people would call conspiracy theory stuff. And they got so mad at Joe Rogan. I can't remember what actually triggered the anger. But Joe Rogan went from being like the prophet of the gnosis, the hidden knowledge, to being a corporate shill. When did the Moche invent coffee? So coffee is not a New World crop. Coffee comes from... well, actually, there's a new paper that got published a couple of months ago that actually suggests the original coffee plant, or the plant that originally became coffee, or eventually became coffee, started in China. Was Chinese. So Yarkasm, this would have been like way back, like way back. That doesn't mean that people understood that if you crushed up these beans and ate or drank the stuff, that you would get the kick of juice out of it. I should have downloaded that paper to read it. I did not have time. I just glanced over the abstract. Nothing more American than Chinese coffee. Was it a Chinese publication? That's a fair question, and I didn't look enough at it. I'll have to go back and try to dig that stuff up. But anyway, let's talk about the Moche. So, they're here on this coastline of modern Peru, and these people are going to be really, really big and really, really impressive. They have some pretty cool stuff, and we can talk about them. So the Moche are a civilization. They are not a kingdom. They're not an empire. They are a group of people that live in smaller chiefdoms or maybe some larger cities that might qualify as a city-state. But they are a group of people that all have a similar physical culture and a similar religious outlook. They first showed up somewhere around 200 BC or so. But it's not too long before they start digging irrigation canals and building larger cities. I'm missing some chat here. Let me look at the chats. Coffee, yeah. It's hard to say Bro Rogan sold out if you never had ethics to begin with. Is it true that Europeans drank alcohol over water because it was safer before the introduction of tea and coffee? So to a certain extent, that is true. The alcohol will kill some of the sort of native beasties in the water, but what's much more frequently the case is that the people in certain regions had just developed natural immunities to whatever the stuff was in the water. For example, you always get told, or you hear, like, don't go to that place and drink the water, but the natives will drink it, right? And the natives think that it's fine because their gut biomes have adapted to having those things introduced via water, whereas somebody who has not grown up in that situation or has not grown up in that culture does not have the gut biome to deal with that stuff. And there are steps that you can take to introduce that to your gut biome. and gain a bit of a faster leg up. But most people don't like doing it because one of the ways that you can actually introduce good bacteria from a local region into your own body system is with, and I'm not joking here, a poop transplant. You can take poop from a native person and get the good flora and fauna out of that and sort of mainline it into your flora and fauna. It's a real thing, and it's actually used to treat certain ailments of medicine. If you have a particular immunodeficiency and somebody has the native immunobacteria or antibodies, you can do poop transplants too. So yeah. Also, hey Kelly, I don't think I said hello to you. Kafifi, hey Eugene, before you brew beer, you need to boil the water to sterilize it so it isn't competing with your bacteria. That's probably not something that they realized early on, Gene. That is something that eventually happens. But the alcohol that we're having over here in the New World is not beer or wine. It's mostly fermented yucca root or fermented corn, and it's sort of mashy. There's a version of South American drink called chicha, which starts where people will chew up plant matter and then spit it into a big jug to get the fermentation process going. Yeah. Why do the Irish still get drunk in that case? Checkmate, evolutionist. Alas. Irish get drunk? I don't know. I am of Irish heritage, but I've never been drunk, so I couldn't tell you. South Park was real. Poop transplants. Yeah, it's a real thing. It really is a real thing. Common treatment for immunocompromised people. There we go. C. diff. Yeah, there we go. Nurse, stat. This patient needs a poop transplant. You're Irish and a teetotaler. Yeah, me too. I'm right there with... Well, I mean, I'm not a teetotaler. I'll buy alcohol for other people. I don't have anything against it. I just don't trust myself drunk. Fun with flora. Chincha de Jore. Yeah, there we are. As a former home brewer, you never sterilized your water. Hashtag first world water quality. Right? All right, so the Moche. They're going to build big irrigation canals. This region of Peru is actually drier than a lot of people want to think. Like, if we look at the coastline here and we zoom in a bit, you can tell that when you think Peru, some people automatically think, like, oh, it's a rainforest, right? There are some really dry places in this region of Peru, especially right up here where the northernmost people of the Moche are going to live. And irrigation is actually really important to create enough arable land to support your population. So irrigation, of course, requires organized labor, but the Moche are also going to start building really cool temples because, you know, it's just the thing to do if you have organized labor. You build a big old temple to your god. And one of the coolest ones is this thing called Huaca de la Luna. And there's another one called Huaca de la Sol, or del Sol. So let's look at Huaca del Sol. It is this big thing. So this is actually the building here. And you can see sort of the facade of it. And then this is part of the city that would have been around it. But look at how big this thing is. Now, to be fair, this is originally a native or natural hill that has been built up with adobe bricks. And when I say adobe here, these are mud bricks that have been baked in the sun. So just imagine how much labor went into building something this big. This is absolutely enormous structure here. You think you've dipped corn chips into what he just said. Probably not. Huaca del Sol? Isn't that where the tacky touristy t-shirts that change color in the sun come from? Maybe? I think that's Playa del Sol. Put into place by Adobe Acrobats. Sedona. Adobe is common here in New Mexico. Yeah. Because, I mean, it's a fairly stable and very long-lasting building material if you live in an arid area. Of course, if you live in an area that gets a lot of rainfall or that's humid, your house is literally going to turn into mud. What about everything goes away? This guy. This guy is Huaca de la Luna. So this is a big mountain that was sort of a sacred mountain to the Moche people. Again, here we see this really big adobe structure built on top of a hill, and again, a sort of city complex around the front of it. So, yeah, these are really, really big construction projects. That is absolutely enormous when you think of the number of hours that had to be put into making all of those bricks, lugging all of those bricks, placing all of those bricks to build something that's, 60 to 70 feet tall and hundreds of feet long, 100 feet wide. It's ridiculously enormous temple structures. Adobe, the car made out of clay. Adobe F-150. You're addressing the question about Europeans drinking beer, chicha de jora. People chew the corn enzymes out of their spit. Yes. Research a lot before you drink it. Ooh. Yeah, I don't know if I could drink that or not. It's typically made in large batches with stronger yeast strains, which doesn't require as much labor as the old way. I know that ideologically the alcohol would probably kill whatever was in the person's spit, but the concept of drinking spit alcohol is even less appealing to me than just drinking alcohol regularly. I don't know if I could get behind it. Gene, how was it? Did it taste like spit? Dogfish Brewery. I know that name. I am aware of that. I get that reference. The Moche also had a pretty big pantheon. They had a wide array of different gods. I do have one that I wanted to show you here that shows up all of the time. This guy is AiH. And he is this really interesting deity in their mythology. He is their creator, but he's also called in some of their lore the headsman. And if you directly translate some of his sort of synonym names, one of them is basically the throat cutter or the beheader. So while he is the god of creation that created everything, if you cross him, he'll cut your head off. Which seems like something that, there we go. It was great. The only reason spit alcohol scares you is because of COVID. Well, I mean, I need a double duty burger for a cop. What does that mean? You're going to spit in it? Don't spit in that cop's burger. The amylase in some people's spit could break down the starch in the corn to sugar before fermentation. Like how the border around him looks like Space Invaders. Aliens. I'll love the color. Okay. Is it spit colored? Oh gosh, that literally looks like... well, I'm not going to tell you what that looks like. That looks like zero appetizing. Hit brothers are A-header and Chi-header. It's muddy water colored. Yes, it is... It's an interesting beverage. We'll just leave it at that. I can't judge it because I've never had it. That looks like a transplant waiting to happen. Right? Cold pressed apple juice. Ew. All right, so the Moche are going to be very successful. They're going to be very influential. And one of the things that they excel in, and this is a little bit later than the period of time that we're talking about now, but I figured I would show it because it's cool. They have a really big skill when it comes to working with pottery. and they become sort of the pottery grandfathers of all of the native peoples that come after them, because they can do cool stuff like this. So this is a Moche pot, and like it's hollow on the inside, but you have this great little warrior guy here with this great little shield, and it looks sort of like an ancient pop figure, which I thought was really, really cool. Pop before it was cool. They did it first. But this is a very high level of skill to make something that looks this good, but also to make it hollow is impressive. That dude has seen some stuff. Oh, those Moche, they're still hot right now. Where am I from? We call that a Mississippi River. Okay, I've seen the Mississippi River. I drove across it not too long ago. What is he holding? So he's got a shield in one hand and a club in the other hand. So this is a club. And it would have had sort of like a crook in it. And it has this tapered to a point head, so that when you swung it, you were putting all of your force behind this one very, very small point, and it's literally designed to crack someone's skull. So you put that little point in someone's temple, and they go down pretty fast. There's a significant amount of fighting that goes on in this area. These are not necessarily 100% peaceful people. Funko Pop prototype in clay. Indeed, right? Moche, pretty cool people. He looks like the Moche version of a chocolate Easter rabbit. That hollow ceramic would be difficult to fire without it fracturing. Yeah. So, like, again, these people they're super skilled, and they're really cool. And they get no love. So many of the really cool Native American tribes get no love. But that's why I'm here, right? All right, let's talk about the Nazca. And I'm sure that you're like, I know these people, right? Probably so. You maybe have heard of the Nazca. When Captain Moche throws his mighty shield. Right. We actually watched Captain America and the Winter Soldier last night. That is still one of the best of the Marvel movies, hands down. Really good. Really good stuff. Nazca. Not Nazgul, not NASCAR. They have the lines. There we go, sci-fi. They indeed do. Civ 6, LOL. Thanks, civilizations. You drive a Nazca. Oh, that's a Mazda. They died out because they could only turn left. Oh, alas. Alas. That's where the lines came from. There you go. You watched Guardians last night. Guardians is good. I like Guardians. I like the first Guardians. The second one, not so much. Haven't watched any of the Captain America titled movies. He's too boring of a character. Moose, Captain America 2 is really good. Well, I guess it's called Captain America and the Winter Soldier. That's one of the top 2 or 3 best of the entire Marvel universe. And it's very much him trying to not... I won't ruin it. If you want to watch it, go watch it. I recommend it. I think it's better than any of the other Captain America movies. The new Black Captain America is way cooler. I'm really excited about Anthony Mackie. He did such a good job as Falcon, hands down across the board in everything that he did. I really liked him in... where he first shows up in Captain America and Winter Soldier. I really liked Falcon and Winter Soldier as the TV show. I know a lot of people pooped on it, but I think it's, in my opinion, the best of the Marvel shows that's come out. And I know a lot of people got really excited about Loki, but Loki was an attempt to fix something that never should have been introduced anyway with this whole multiverse thing. I really worry that Marvel has stepped in the poo pile with this multiverse time travel stuff. Anytime you do time travel as a plot device, I really just sort of roll my eyes. It doesn't work, right? And then you go, well, what about those movies that you do like? Well, yeah, I like Back to the Future, but Back to the Future didn't take itself seriously, right? It wasn't trying to be so. Why is the stream so full of poop tonight? But I really like Falcon and Winter Soldier. I really liked Anthony Mackie's acting job in that. I think that he did a great job. I think he was the best actor in that whole show. It was an excellent go. And I know that the show itself was problematic and they had some pretty big plot holes and they rushed some stuff, but a lot of that was due to COVID. They had to cut entire subplots out of Captain America. I'm sorry, out of Falcon and Winter Soldier because of COVID. Winter Soldier is objectively the best one. Did I see that Mackie formally signed for Cap 4? Yes. Captain America and Winter Soldier got too preachy. I could see that. I was okay with it. I think that the larger point was a good one, and that is that the world is grayer than we all want to think it is, right? Captain America is the one of the big Marvel movies character that you like from the comics. The Ed Brubaker run of Captain America was amazing. Why is the stream so full of poop? Blame Eris. I don't think it has anything to do with Eris. It was poopy before he got here. The multiverse time travel stuff kind of ruined the Marvel comics for me. Stopped making any deaths have impact because we knew they would come back. There we go. Googling Nazca. All right, so Kelly's like, get back on Jack here. I really do need to make that a point redemption thing. Just like, get on with it. No love for Sebastian Stan. He did okay, but they also didn't give him very much screen time. All right. Yeah, so let's talk about the Nazca. They are also in Peru. They are much further south down the coast. They can only move south down the coast. One of my favorite Counting Crows songs. Here are the Nazca territories. When we're talking about here, this region is not so big, but they are fairly advanced in the levels of the culture that they have. They're, again, a fairly organized group. They are not a kingdom or an empire. Again, they are sort of a group of polities, small political units that might be chiefdoms, maybe some larger cities that would qualify as a kingdom, but definitely not anything that's like a conquering kingdom or anything like that at that point. But they have really big cities, like this guy. This is a complex called Cahuachi. And here we have a couple of really big temple structures. We've got a lot of cityscape around here. Cahuachi was one of the largest Nazca sites. It's not necessarily a really high population year-round. The leading prevailing theory is that Cahuachi probably had a smaller population that lived there for part of the year, but then a lot of people ended up sort of coming in for festival times or for certain trade times, harvest time, stuff like that. So Cahuachi would probably expand and contract quite a bit when it came to their actual population year-round. According to rifts, they used the magic for their cities, which collapsed when the Atlanteans accidentally caused magic to get destroyed until the nuclear war powered up the rifts. Well, there we go. If they decide to do a live-action young Luke Skywalker, Sebastian Stan is an actor of choice to take the mantle from Hamill. It's a seasonal town. Sort of, yeah. But they didn't have... I mean, they had a population that was stable there, but it definitely did expand and contract during certain seasons. So. All right. But what about the lines? The lines are what most people get excited about. I do have some pictures. Here's a big monkey. It's a monkey. These are absolutely enormous. And they can take up hundreds and hundreds of yards, or sometimes even up to like half miles, which would be about 2 or 3 kilometers worth of space. These are huge, and of course these can only be seen fully from the air, which of course brings everybody back to it was for aliens. It wasn't for aliens, and I don't know why this is still flashing here. But here's a big monkey. You can see the big monkey. Here's a big hummingbird. This is one of the more famous of the Nazca lines. So the way that they made these is actually collecting rocks.
Friends,
Romans,
Romans,
countrymen, lend me your ears.
come to bury Caesar, not to praise him.
Hey, Kilton, good to see you. And thank you for the host, my friend. How are you tonight? Hope you're doing well. Yeah, so these are collections of rocks that are spread out over hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of yards, that are just absolutely enormous. And there are all sorts of theories about why they did these and how they did these and for the reason they did these and how could they have done that and yada yada yada. The answer is they could probably just draw and they could probably just measure. And I know that is so much less sexy than aliens this, by the way, is an actual theory that is out there. There are some archaeologists that believe that the Nazca had hot air balloons and that they were able to build effective leather balloons and make wooden canoe basins that they would build a fire on to make hot air balloons so that they could go up and sort of survey these lines. There's not a lot of proof for that, but there are people that get behind it. Not sure to make about this. Friends, Romans, Amaranth, lend me your ears. Oh, alas. I could make a couple $1 million a month. I mean, right now, if I were just being honest with myself, if I knew for a fact that I could make even half of that in a year just by licking a microphone, I can't say that I wouldn't do it. If it would take me a lot less time of my day, I'd be able to do what I wanted to for the rest of the day. And at the end of the day, I'm just licking a microphone. I can't say I wouldn't do it. Didn't they use constellations during the day? So there's a lot of suspicion about how exactly they oriented things, like following certain star patterns that moved to get lines straight. So like at certain times of the night you can go out, or at certain times of the morning you can go out when the stars are basically coming out or going in, and you can see these particular stars move across the sky as the Earth tilts and rotates. And then you can make basically a straight line by lining up a rock with that particular star. So there's some of that that's out there, Shiggy. I haven't read enough of those papers to give you what I would consider an educated opinion on that. If anybody knows more about that, I'd be interested to hear. Imagine ancient project managers. Draw and measure versus hot air balloon that could lift a person. Mr. Occam says that you're probably right. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, people just don't like the idea that ancient people could do math or just that could draw and could organize people and get stuff done. They just don't like it. If you made $1 million a month doing that, you'd only have to do it for 1 month, right? No, I would do it for about 3 months, and then I would put that in the bank, and I would live off the interest for the rest of my life. Yeah. Like, for real. Yeah. There you go. When Shane discovers that the microphone has every variant of COVID. Oh. I got the COVID. It ruins our worldview that the average human is now smarter than any ancient human in ancient times. Shiggy, I do think that's a part of it. I really do think that, and I'm going to say this, and I'm not trying to be rude to anybody that's here with us. I'm just speaking here sort of in general. I think that modern people with our modern technology have this idea that because we have modern technology, we are somehow intellectually superior to everyone that has lived before us. And that's just factually wrong. There are there are skilled people from the ancient world that can do things that if I started right now, I would never learn how to do by the end of my life. There are people in the ancient world that could do math better than I ever could or will be able to do. There are people that could draft, like architecturally draft or draw blueprints or things in the ancient world that are better than I could ever do. And we have to understand, and this is, I sort of harp on this a lot in the stream, we are genetically the same as those people. Like the intellectual capacity, so that we have is the same intellectual capacity that ancient people have. We start at the same zero. The biggest difference is that we get jump started with things like neonatal vitamins, good and proper diets when we're children, and exposure to vast amounts of stored data. Right? An ancient world person with one book could rule the ancient world. Right? If you got like something like a Doomsday Prepper book and brought it back to somebody in the Nazca culture, and that book contained all of this information about how to purify water, how to construct fires, how to build basic structures, how to make tools, how to conduct basic things that we take for granted, that would put that person on the same level as us. We just have fancier ways to make and transmit our knowledge. This was the real reason the Library of Alexandria destroyed. Proof of ancient knowledge. Yeah. Roman concrete is still superior. Roman concrete is still around. People still drive cars on Roman concrete today. Modern people know more about a lot of specific subjects than ancient people. They had an equally broad and deep knowledge and skill set about something else that was important to their society or culture. Absolutely. Nazca, 100% less than a British. Yeah, pretty much. There is a Nazca line human, so like a man, so not 100% less there, Vipers. Arthur Dent's biggest gift to the undeveloped world was just making a sandwich. Hey, ya tuna, adventure. All right, so there's some cool people down in South America, the Nazca and the Moche. So let's check out what's going on up here in North America. And we're going to look here in this region, which is the Ohio River Valley. But some modern people believe that the world is flat. Yeah. Thanks, Internet. So right through here runs the Ohio River. And if we throw up our modern borders, we can actually see the state of Ohio. And we can follow this river's border right here as it meets the Mississippi. This, by the way, is this big squiggly right here is the Mississippi River. Yes. So, thanks, map makers. Indeed. So while these big cultures in South America are building these enormous adobe mounds, there are people in the United States region that are building mounds of their own, like the Adena people. You're going to post a stand-up routine about modern tech bias. Do it! If you are not part of the Discord and you want to be part of the Discord, you are welcome to join the Discord. If the world isn't flat, how are houses square? Checkmate, rounder. If the world is flat, why haven't cats pushed everything off the edge? Checkmate, flatter. You can say this for the first time on stream. I can see my house from here. All right, so right around in this region, we're going to run into a group of people called the Adena, and they are mostly settled in the Ohio River Valley and the surrounding areas. And they're going to show up first around the 500s or so BC, but by the time we get to the 1st and 2nd century of the AD or CE, they're going to become a fairly sizable group of people. And they're fairly widespread. They don't have a lot of what we would consider permanent dwelling places. Their levels of civilization are not as high as the people in Mesoamerica or in Peru. So they're still doing a lot of hunter-gatherer kind of material action, but they're also doing some semi-nomadic sort of like circuit traveling action. But they're going to have some pretty neat stuff that they leave behind. They do leave behind some pottery, but examples of Adena pottery are kind of hard to find good photos of, but you can Google it if you want to. But some of the cool stuff that they leave behind are things like this. This is a conical mound. You can see here based on the trees that it's pretty big. This guy's about 65 feet, or not 65, about 55 feet tall or so. This is called the Graves Creek Mound, and it is one of several that are attributed to the Adena people. I don't know why me showing a photo is such an issue here. Maybe if I do that. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Is that going to make it stop doing the flashy thing? Look, it's not doing the flashy thing anymore. Okay, maybe that's the way to go now. Anyway, the Adena. Here we go. Big, cool mound building groups of people. So, all right. The Adena are going to be, again, fairly widespread groups of people. They're mostly going to be identified by their physical culture. So when we find a village that's in the Ohio River Valley and you start excavating the remains of it, the dwelling places themselves are going to be fairly similar to other tribal structures around that time. Because, again, they're moving around in this area, there are other people groups that live in some of the same areas, so the areas overlap. They're mostly going to be identified by the mounds that they leave behind and their pottery. But the Adena are, once they get to a certain point, are going to be superseded by another group that gets called the Hopewell tradition. And the Hopewell tradition is going to be significantly more widespread and get all the way up here into the southern Great Lakes region. Oddly enough, your cat doesn't push things off things. Nice. What have I done? That mound is what I picture an outhouse that has not moved in hundreds of years looks like. Wow. Looks like my landfills. We made an Adena-inspired mound, just bigger. If you are driving from St. Louis to go see Cahokia, which is the largest, the site of the largest Native American mound in North America, in the United States, you drive right past a massive landfill. Just absolutely enormous landfill in what is East St. Louis, Illinois. So landfills and giant Native American mounds go kind of hand in hand in my history. Hey, Fog, good to see you. I like the torches on the St. Louis landfill. Yeah, it's just, you got to burn off all that excess. So the Hopewell tradition, again, it's pretty big. It gets all the way down here into what is West Virginia, down into what is Kentucky and Indiana, and even a bit over here into what is today Illinois. So this whole region, you're going to find quite a bit of Hopewell structures. And these people are going to be remarkable for a few reasons. They're mound builders as well, but they're also going to be some of the first people in what we would consider today the United States that do work with metal. There are some copper mines here in the southern Great Lakes region, and the Hopewell people are going to mine and use copper. It's mostly done for ornamental properties, so we're making cool stuff out of it, not necessarily weapons or tools, but that happens a little bit later on as well. All that methane has to go somewhere, right? And we don't have Bartertown. Who run Bartertown? Anyway, one of the cooler things that we get from the Hopewell people is this guy. And this is one of the cooler mounds that exists in the United States today. This is in southern Ohio, and it is called Serpent Mound. So if you see, you have the kind of the head of the serpent up here, and then this runs around in this serpentine pattern and comes down here and then makes a spiral. This is a pretty long stretch. This is several hundred yards, which would be probably 4.5, maybe 500 meters. Probably longer than that. It's a big structure. At the height, the mounds are between 20, 25 feet. So pretty substantial amount of earthwork being done here. East St. Louis run Butter Town. Nice Thunderdome reference. Oh, come on, Gene. You never know what's going to pop up tonight. The pop culture is strong in the room. Looks like a good golf course. Put a flag in that spiral. Okay, so Shiggy, you laugh. Let me see if I can. So by the way, I really like Native American mounds. It's one of my favorite things. And I have this map here of publicly accessible Native American mounds. And I'm fairly certain that one of these up here is actually... Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, so thank you for that follow, and welcome to the adventure. Grow a tree. Thanks very much. Good to see you. So this big thing right here is called the Newark Earthworks, and it is this enormous circular structure. This is the sort of ceremonial gateway to the structure here, and then you see this big circle mound that runs around this. So this is a Native American mound. The inside of it is not built up. It's basically just like building a big sacred boundary around this area. But look what's around it. That's right. It's a golf course. So somebody says Native American mounds and golf course. I go, I can show you that. Yep. One of the things that I wanted to go see this summer, I wanted to do a road trip to get up here to Ohio. This is another one of these. This is actually a little bit later, but these big circular mounds are just absolutely impressive to me. Super cool stuff. All right, let me zoom on back out here. All right, so Hopewell people, really cool, big, expansive, do metal work. Again, they're not necessarily going to be city dwellers, but they're pretty neat in their own right. And that's actually going to bring us to the end of my prepared stream at the moment. It's really large. You want to go see that someday. It is. It's really cool. More pop than culture sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. Moundo Man. And the golf course, of course. My sacred eagle putt. Dun dun dun. 767, thank you very much. And welcome to the adventure. We got 5 follows tonight. That's a pretty big stream for me. So thank you all, and welcome to all of our new friends that have come to hang out. So I am done with my portion, but that doesn't mean that we have to be done. So remember that if you look below you, you have access to adventure points. If you want to spend any of those, now's the time to do it. You can find something there that tickles your fancy and just give it a go. We can also ask questions if anybody has any questions about the material that we talked about tonight, or just any other general history stuff. you're welcome to bring that up. Otherwise, I think I might be looking around to see who is streaming, to see who we might go do a raid upon. Raid. How many channel points for watch a history related YouTube video with Shane commentary? I don't know. It depends. Why mounds, though? What amount of piling dirt on top of dirt entertains humans? It's not the entertainment. It's the... Well, I mean, I guess it could be entertainment when you live in a world that doesn't have TV. It's a lot of symbolism. The mounds themselves, especially like Serpent Mound, were religious in nature. You would have different ceremonies on top of these mounds. They were also seen as reflections of particular parts of the universe. So a lot of the really conical mounds are sort of like rays of the sun. Some of the mounds were used as burial chambers for important figures inside of the culture. Other times, they played games on top of them. There were some really, really big mounds, like the one here in Mississippi called Emerald Mound, that they actually played what would have been their version of lacrosse on top of, because it's that big. It's a ridiculously large structure that you could put 3 American football fields on top of. It's absolutely crazy in size and scope. It's, if you like dirt mounds, check out Newgrange. Oh yeah, I know Newgrange. I want to go explore all of the really cool tumuli in Ireland. I've got a friend that has gone to do all of that stuff, and I'm very jealous of his adventures. I'd love to go. I'd love to go to all of the UK and go see all of the really cool Neolithic structures over there. What culture is most similar to the old Taliban rule of Afghanistan? You redeemed what's in the news. Did I completely miss what's in the news? I did redeem what's in the news, or missed that. What culture is most similar to the old Taliban rule of Afghanistan? Would it be sarcastic to say the new Taliban rule of Afghanistan? So the Taliban, first and foremost, is a political organization. However, the members of their political organization have a very conservative take on Islamic tradition, and they have a tradition that runs back to a very conservative movement inside of the Ottoman Empire called Wahhabism, which is something that grew out of the Saudi resistance to the Ottoman domination. So the Ottomans had taken over most of Saudi Arabia. But Saudi Arabia was not a country at that point, by the way. The Ottomans had taken over most of the area in the Arabian Peninsula. And the Arab tribes, who were, of course, the first Muslims, took a lot of umbrage to that. And especially by the time you get to the 1700s, the Ottoman leaders had become very... what's the right word here? A lot of people inside of the Muslim world thought that the Ottoman leadership was very impious, very worldly, very attached to their wealth, sort of overindulgent. And so this guy named Ibn al-Wahhab, who was a preacher at the time, started bringing up this new sort of theological interpretation that was very, very strict, very literal interpretation of the Quran. And from that grew this movement called Wahhabism, which is what a lot of these terrorist organizations now consider themselves part of. So like Al-Qaeda, the terrorist organization, was a Wahhabist terrorist organization. And the reason that they took shelter in Afghanistan with the Taliban is because the Taliban's interpretation of Islam is very, very strict, and they were sort of if not compatible with Al Qaeda, at least happy enough to let them go do whatever they wanted to do. So the tradition that the Taliban follows is not necessarily new. It's several hundred years old. I don't know if that's necessarily exactly what you were after, Shiggy. I'd be happy to answer sort of following questions from that. Can you redeem a viewer choice? Yes. Yes, you can. Let me get over here and make that doable. Wahhabism. There you go. So the guy that I'm supposed to be going to Twitch. The guy that started that was a guy named Muhammad ibn Abd Wahhab. Ibn Abd al-Wahhab. He's got lots of names. Ideally in the same region. Basically, what culture did it build, expand? Yeah, so I think I inadvertently answered that without even getting it. Seems like your internet is crazy. It's buffering like crazy. Fog, I think that might be me, and I apologize. I think it might be on my end. You're currently trying to complete your homework assignment. Report on the current situation in Afghanistan in Thai. That's impressive. You read that during the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia sent their most extreme Wahhabi guys over there to fight in the jihad against the invaders, basically so that they didn't cause problems at home for them. Well, it's fair enough to say that the Saudi regime that's in charge now has backed away a little bit on the personal level from a lot of that Wahhabism. They very much still express that in public quite a bit. If you look at the rules and regulations and what am I trying to say here? If you look at the way that people live in Saudi Arabia, they still live under a very strict interpretation of Islam. Very, very strict. So much so that, like women only got the right to drive a couple of years ago. Crazy stuff. All right, Batbird, you are free to go, my friend. Go for it. You think that basically answered your question. I avoided saying the current stuff because their ruling style is still not set. I do not expect it to be very far away from something that would... I really do expect the modern Taliban government style structure to look a lot like Saudi Arabia does, but on the... Not on the go to Riyadh and see what Saudi Arabia looks like, but go to the backwater provinces of Saudi Arabia and see what the government there looks like. I think that's what a lot of the Afghanistan new government regime is going to look like. All right. Anybody else? Any questions? Ah! Batbird hits us with something that I was expecting a lot sooner. The History of Modern Israel Part 2. So for those of you that are not aware, I guess it's been a couple of months ago now, back over the summer, I did the History of the Modern State of Israel Part 1. And I think it was a really good stream. I had a lot of good interaction during that stream, and I said, we're not going to finish it because there's just too much to do on one stream. So, we'll have to pick up another one. So, Batbird, thanks. I'm very excited to do that. And I think that we'll have another good one. So, let's see who is around. Fun fact, weed is illegal in Europe due to Sharia law. I would have to read more about that, Vipers. I know that a lot of the original ideology behind making weed illegal had a lot to do with sort of Western takes on that. I would have to look at the reasoning there. I'm not calling you a liar. I'm just saying, I don't know enough about that angle to actually speak to that. He thought they had some sort of issue with figuring out who will rule in the new government because they have a wide philosophical spread. Their version of wide philosophical spread is not as wide as you might think. It's a lot closer to well, I don't know how to get into that without getting head first deep into that. So we'll just say that it's not as broad and wide as some people like to put it in. Fun fact from my mom: there's a town in Michigan that has declared Sharia law. Is there now? Is there? I'm not familiar with that, Tuna. I would love to read more about that. You made it. You thought for sure you'd missed everything. Figment, we're about to go raid somebody. Would you do something Thai related if you redeemed it? Absolutely. Your mom doesn't do much research. Is it as broad as any American political party? No, I would say it's about as broad as the difference between Southern Baptist and Baptist. Or the difference between Orthodox or Roman Catholic. It's from the International Opium Convention. Egypt and some other nations pressured the League of Nations to include weed to do the same so that it discourages alcohol use. Was one of those other nations the United States, because we were in the middle of prohibition? Son of a duck. Would you do a history of Taliban? I'd do the history of the Taliban. How specific do you need it? You got the points. Well, at the point we are at right now, I have turned off the redemptions, and it'll be a little while before we can take another one, because this coming Tuesday is actually a viewer-voted viewer request stream. We're going to be doing the Empire of Mali, and then the next viewer request will be Batbirds, and then we'll need to vote on one, and then we'll take point redemption requests. So it'll be a little while before we get to a new one. Thank you for commiserating with your sorrow. But sci-fi, I would love to do a Thai stream, and specific, we could say something like ancient or medieval or colonial period or modern, something that's not like just the history of Thailand. Or if you wanted to do something more like the history of religion in Thailand, or if you wanted to look at one of the particular culture groups inside of Thailand, the cultural differences between Eastern and Western Thailand, or something like that. We could do something like that, but we could talk about that when we get there. How many episodes would it take to cover the history of Gundam? I don't know. The Michigan City thing is not correct. If she was talking about the city of Dearborn. The city of Dearborn is actually one of the most racist named cities in Michigan. Also sounds like this history of missile... yes, we did see... Yes, the history of Middle Earth. We did get a history of Middle Earth, and we will be doing one of those pretty soon, within the next couple of days. Well, not couple of days, couple of weeks. Maybe not. It definitely won't be this Saturday. It could be the following Saturday. I'm not sure, though. All right. We're going to go raid somebody. I will admit that after talking for 2 classes today, and then we're talking for this, my voice is starting to fade on me. This typically happens at the beginning of the year, especially when I'm not used to talking for hours and hours and hours of a day. So let's go see who is around. You know what? We have not raided cat videos in forever, so let's go raid cat videos. Cat Videos is a delightful streamer. We have not raided her in a really long time, and it's time to go see some friends. Cat is an artist who is just a delight, and we'll have some good time and good fun over there. Can you download your streams because you've got a 12-hour flight soon? Yeah, absolutely. I can. Figment, if you want me to download some stuff for you and send it to you, I would be happy to do so. Just let me know which particular streams you would be interested in, and I'd be happy to. Mainly at empires or like bringing Thailand into modernization, how they became democratic. That'd be fun. We could do that. You don't just play these videos for your classes. No, I don't, Shiggy. I don't actually tell most of my students that I stream for whatever reason. All right, so we're going to go raid cat videos. Who again is a friend of this channel, interesting streamer. You'll find some fun there, and I will see you all definitely next time on Tuesday. There's a chance that this weekend that I might have some time to do a Gundam build stream. I'm not 100% certain. We'll see. But definitely next Tuesday, 1900 Central Standard Time, we'll be doing the Empire of Mali, which is a viewer request. And next Thursday, we're starting a new phase. So we'll be looking at 200 to 300 for the next phase. So thank you all for everything. You all are great. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend if I don't see you until next week. Thanks just for hanging out and being cool people. I really do appreciate that. So our battle cry is adventure, and you can throw those lovely adventure hats in the chat if you have them. Otherwise, I'll see everybody around. Have a good one.